Hi, I'm Brendan from Lowry Wall Beds, and this is the step-by-step assembly video for our brand new, ready-to-assemble Lowry Wall Bed wood kit. Now the Lowry Wall Bed is not like any other Murphy bed you can build because we've completely eliminated the need for complicated, expensive lifting hardware. These items are expensive, they're hard to install, they make the project really complicated. That's why people love the Lowry Wall Bed, because you don't have to use those at all. By getting rid of that from our design, the Lowry Wall Bed has become the simplest, most affordable Murphy bed you can build. Now folks have been building our beds themselves for over 10 years all over the world, using our simple step-by-step plans and kits of hardware. But until now, unless you had the space and the tools to cut the wood yourself, you were kind of out of luck. So that's why we're so excited to be introducing the ready-to-build kit. Now we can provide you every piece of wood, pre-cut, pre-drilled, shipped straight to your door. You can put it together with just a drill, no cutting, no measuring, no mess. Now even if you're planning on building a Lowry Wall Bed the traditional way, buying and cutting the wood yourself, still follow along with me in this video because once you've got all your pieces cut, the assembly process is virtually the same. So with that, let's get started. Follow along with me as we put together the Lowry Wall Bed Ready to Assemble kit. The first step of our project is to assemble the cabinet sides by attaching some trim pieces. I start by laying everything out on this work surface, side by side, and kind of arranging the trim pieces to see what I'm going to get before I attach everything. This is your chance to sort of mix and match the boards to get the best appearance. You'll have two long pieces that go up the sides, one of which has a notch that corresponds to the baseboard trim cutout on the cabinet side. And then you'll have two short trim pieces for each one. Note that the way I'm laying these out has both sides in a mirror image of each other. So I'll move one of these aside and get started by flipping everything on the other piece upside down here, since the screws come in from this back side. I'll take my time to line everything up. And then start by putting one screw in one of the corners, in one of the long side boards. And I'll do the same thing at the top of that board to lock it in place. Going back to the bottom, I'll rearrange everything if needed, and put a screw in the bottom of the other long side trim piece. Do that again at the top. And then I just got to lock down the two short trim pieces here at the top and the bottom. And now everything's fully locked in place, so I can start going around with my 1-inch screws. Now, these two holes right here are for a shelf support that we'll use later, so don't put any screws in here right now. But otherwise, all the other holes get a 1-inch screw. I'll set this one aside while I get started on the second one. Again, flipping everything over. I just want to lay this first side here, again, to remind you that we're building two mirror image pieces of each other. So again, as before, lining everything up, starting with one screw in the top and bottom of one of these long trim pieces, and then again in the other side trim piece. Just to lock everything in place before I go around with the rest of my screws. And those are the cabinet sides. The next step is to assemble the headboard shelf, using the headboard shelf brace and the headboard shelf, lining up the holes, and connecting them with these hinges. These hinges use 1/2-inch screws, and I'll start by putting 1/2-inch screws in the 2 bottom holes on each of the hinges. When I'm done with those 3 hinges, I'll do the same thing with the 3 holes that go into the headboard shelf itself. When you're done, it should hinge like this. Now we're ready to assemble the cabinet. I start by laying out one of the cabinet sides and bringing over the cabinet top, fitting it into the notch that's created on the top of the cabinet side. And then I'll lay down the second cabinet side. Now it's hard to tell from here, but the row of holes in the cabinet top is up in this picture or towards the back of the cabinet. That's important for later. So I'm going to start by finding one of the holes in the cabinet top and drilling a pilot hole at a bit of an angle through the cabinet top and into the side of the cabinet, fitting the joint tightly together with my hand and then putting in an 1.5-inch screw just to hold it in place. I'll do the same thing on the other end of the cabinet top, kind of fitting the joint together. Now this whole step is a lot easier to do if you have a partner, but I'm demonstrating to you how you can do it by yourself if you're on your own. Holding the joint tightly with my hand while I create a pilot hole at a slight angle towards the cabinet side. Holding the joint tightly with my hand and putting in 1.5-inch screw. Next, I want to bring over the headboard shelf we put together earlier and install it like this. The notches make it pretty easy to line up, so just drop it in place and adjust the spacing of your cabinet sides as you need to get that to fit together. Then I've got 2 identical cabinet braces. One fits in the notch at the bottom of the cabinet and then one up here at the top. I'm going to start by going around into each of the pieces I just put in place, creating a pilot hole at an angle towards the cabinet side, and then putting in an 1.5-inch screw just to hold everything in place. Holding the joints together with my hand as I put the screws in. And then now that I got one screw in each place, I can go back and do the remaining pilot holes, all at a slight angle towards the cabinet, and come back and put screws in the remaining holes. The last step is to attach the cabinet top to this top brace here. I'm in the middle hole of the cabinet top, holding everything together, lining it up while I carefully create a pilot hole into the top brace, and then put one screw in so everything stays well lined up while I go back for my 4 remaining pilot holes and screws through the cabinet top into the upper brace. And then you're ready to stand it up against the wall. To level the headboard shelf, first make sure it's lifted up and out of the way, and bring over one of your shelf supports. Line it up with those 2 holes we left in the cabinet side, and hold it in place as you lower the shelf. Use a level to find approximately the right spot for this shelf support. Now, if you don't have a carpenter's level, most smartphones have free apps available that do exactly the same thing. In fact, the built-in Compass app on the iPhone has a level already built in. So once you've found approximately the right spot for this shelf support, attach it to the cabinet side with 2 1.5-inch long screws through these slots and into the holes in the cabinet side. Don't worry if it comes out of position a little bit as you install it. Check the level again after you install that and tap it with a hammer slightly if it's not quite perfect. And then we'll repeat the same steps on the other side. And that's how you assemble the Lowry wall bed cabinet. To build our shelves, first grab the 2 bull noses and one of the shelves, which are both the same. Line up your bull noses with the row of holes in the shelf and attach with 2.5-inch washer head screws. And that's your first shelf. Set that aside while we build the second shelf, which is basically the same but uses these 2 longer rockers. So line them up with your holes and attach with 2.5-inch washer head screws. Building your Lowry wall bed platform is probably the trickiest step of the process, so take your time as we go through here. I'm going to bring over my 4 mattress panels, lay them up here against the wall, and you'll see that the notches in the panels give you only one way that they fit together. But since one side of the boards might be more attractive than the other, take a look at both sides and figure out which is the most attractive side, the side that you'd like to have facing into the room when you do your project. When you're ready, lay your shelves out on the floor, something like this. And then bring your mattress panels over and lay them on top. Now remember, the good side of your board is facing down in this step. That's the side that'll be facing out into the room. So put the good side down. The shorter shelf with the bullnoses will have this hole up here. And the bottom of the bed by the rockers will have this row of holes down here, just so we're all well oriented. So you're going to start by shifting the platform gently and gradually so that it lines up with the end of your rockers here and the seams fall perfectly over the top of the rockers. Go up to the top end here and adjust as needed as well. Then I'm going to put one screw through one of the panels into the rocker at kind of the bottom left of my project. I'm going around and just tacking down the corners of the project. I'll do the same thing here in this other end of the shelf. And then I'll go to this other rocker and then put in a screw. So now that bottom shelf is fully tacked down, it's not going anywhere. And I'm going to go back up to the top of the bed and do the same thing with the upper shelf. I'm going to pull those 4 panel pieces tightly together. I'll tack down one end and then tack down the other end. But once you've tacked things down now, nothing's going to move. I'll go all around with 2.5-inch screws in each of those holes. So when you're done, you'll have a row of screws here in the upper shelf and bull noses, and the same rows of screws here in the lower shelf and the rockers. To attach the mattress rest, which keeps the mattress from slipping off the panel when you lift it, start by flipping your platform over. Now again, a partner is really handy here. Now, please use a partner here if you've got any doubts to your strength. And then bring your mattress rest over to the end of the platform, down by the rockers. Kind of lift and gently slide that mattress rest in place underneath. Use a hammer if you need to kind of tap the mattress rest so it's evenly spaced between the sides of the panel, but flush with the end. In one end, and attach it with a 2.5-inch washer head screw. Do the same thing in the other end, and screws in the remaining holes. To attach your seam braces, flip the panel over again. I'm going to rotate mine so that the mattress rest is facing the wall where it eventually has to be. Now the seam braces provide some structural support as well as covering up the seams. And they consist of this one long brace that goes down the middle, 2 short ones that go on the sides against the mattress rest, and 2 medium ones that also go along the sides. So try to center these braces more or less over the seams, and then tack down each end with a 3/4 inch long screw. Then once you've got all the ends tacked down, go ahead and put in all your remaining screws. To install the mattress strap, then I'll install one of these eye screws tightening it as much as I can by hand, and then coming back with a screwdriver to get it in the rest of the way. To attach one of the straps, I'll pass the loop end of the strap through the eye screw and then pass the buckle end of the strap through the loop. And then just pull to tighten it down. Do the same steps on the other side. And then I'll clip the two ends of the strap together. Now the strap is fully adjustable to accommodate whatever mattress you end up using, but I'll just leave it like this for now. Now we're ready for the very important step of anchoring the cabinet to the wall. This is not an optional step. The Lowry wall bed cannot be safely used without being anchored to the wall. Now, before you permanently attach it to your wall, you're probably going to want to paint or stain your project. But I'm going to go ahead just like this, putting it into position against the wall. Now, the method I'm going to use is to find studs in my wall with a stud finder, mark their spots in the brace, and put screws into the studs. But we provide toggle bolts in the hardware kit in case you just want to install it into your drywall. And if you've got some other kind of wall material, just go to your hardware store and ask them what they recommend. Once I've got my holes marked on the upper brace, I'm going to drill through them, creating a pilot hole through the brace and into the stud in the wall. I'm going to take one of my leftover washer head screws with this large fender washer from the kit and tighten that down. And I'll do this in 2 more places. Installing the safety locks is the last step of the process, but very, very important. So get your platform in position, lift it up into place with the help of a partner if you need to, and take your time to kind of adjust, nudge things into place, because it probably won't sit perfectly right the first time. But the platform should nest neatly into the cabinet. Adjust things as needed so it all lines up well. This might require you to raise and lower the platform a couple times, making some adjustments, but once you find that spot, it'll tend to stay in that position all the time. To install our locks, find this set of holes underneath the upper shelf and install this twisting half of the lock in that spot using the screws provided with the lock. Now the second half of the lock doesn't have holes provided, so you'll need to mark where those best should be. Do that by holding this half of the lock in place. You want it as far as possible from the other half of the lock, while still being able to freely catch as the lock turns. So when you find that spot, hold it in place, mark the 2 holes with a pencil. And we've provided a small drill bit in the hardware kit for you to make these pilot holes, because the screws are a little smaller than what you've used in the rest of the project. But make these pilot holes and then install that second half of the lock. And then repeat that process on the other side. And again, you want the second half of the lock to be as far away from the first half as possible while still functioning, so it doesn't get in the way when you raise and lower the bed. Mark your holes, drill your pilot holes, and attach. And with your safety locks installed and your cabinet anchored to the wall, you're done. You're ready to add your mattress, strap it in, and enjoy the Lori wall bed for many, many nights to come. Thank you so much for watching, and we encourage you to reach out anytime by emailing us at info@loriwallbeds.com, visiting our website, loriwallbeds.com, and share your success story and pictures with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/loriwallbeds.